Matt Granryd is the Director General of the GSMA. Hi, Matt. So great to see
Danielle.
you.
Great to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're at the top of the Shard in the heart of London with this amazing view.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, isn't it?
It's a great summer day and much better than the over 40 degrees that's in my hometown of Austin, Texas.
Ooh, yeah. No, this is more comfortable. 22, 23 or something.
Oh, it's gorgeous and it's amazing. And so I wanted to talk to you about the new GSMA initiative, Open Gateway, and then maybe chat a little bit about MWC 24, which is, of course, my favorite event of the year. Will always be so special in my heart. So at MWC 23 in Barcelona this year, it was a big part of your opening keynote about Open Gateway. And so Open Gateway is an initiative, at least the way I understand it, an initiative that provides a framework of common network APIs that enable developers to collaborate with mobile operators to accelerate the development of services and apps. And as of now, I think you have close to 30 operators on board. So
absolutely.
So
well read. Absolutely, that's the case.
It's amazing. And so communication platforms as a service, or CPaaS, is not new to telco or to developer communities. I think this represents a killer business opportunity that telcos, for the most part, have ceded to the software vendors like Twilio and Vonage. And so wanted to talk to you about Open Gateway. I'm super excited about this initiative. I think it's a great business opportunity.
Good. I like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. So my first question is, what is the goal of GSMA Open Gateway from a telco perspective? What are the operators trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, Open Gateway started really a year ago, and we had this big launch in Barcelona. We said to ourselves that let's not talk before we've done things. And in Barcelona, we had actually done things. So we had launched a couple of APIs. And the whole idea of Open Gateway is really that 5G has so much to offer, and we need to do a couple of things as operators. We need to monetize it, obviously.
Yes.
We have huge amount of capabilities in our 5G networks. So if we open up the networks, make sure that we invite hyperscalers, developers, app developers, use the credentials to solve a common problem. Then we are in a completely different ballgame. We will sort of be back to roaming, but roaming from an API perspective, not just voice. And I think the things we need to do is to understand three things. We need to go up the value chain and not just provide the connectivity for hyperscalers and others, which we will continue to do, obviously, but we want to play a much bigger role. We can play a bigger role, number one. Number two is that we need to look at this outside in. And with that, I mean, if we start as a mobile operator to develop one service, one API for a bank, for instance, the bank would be, that's fantastic, but I only have access to your customers, dear mobile operator. I want to have access to all customers. So therefore, it's better that if we can get the bank to come to us and my colleagues, my competitors, if you like, in one market, to develop an app. That's what I mean with outside in. And the third thing is, for this then to work, we need to understand that we have to federate in a market and then eventually globally, like roaming. We work together. So those are the things we need to understand, and they are fundamentally different in this Open Gateway initiative. And also 5G, as you know, 5G is more towards business to business. It is for you and me as well, obviously, better speed, lower latency and all that, and better IoT connections. However, the business-to-business community is the one that will benefit the most. So if we are able now to open up our Komodo, if you would like, and then for people to come in, use the credentials, we will then have a much better position for us. We will be able to serve our customers, which in this case will be predominantly business-to-business.
Enterprises.
And work together with hyperscalers and app developers.
No, that's amazing. And so when you first announced this at MWC 23, you had 21 operators on board. Now you're up to nearly 30. And so why do you think the telcos are so excited to jump and be a part of this initiative?
Because it makes a lot of sense. You know, it makes a lot of sense. We were 20, I think, in Barcelona, and they are still the founding starters, if you would like. And now we have 30. It's more than 60% of the world's subscribers.
I saw that,
But that doesn't really matter that much. But it is the operators that are the most sort of guiding, the leaders in the world, I would say.
But I think you're trying to go after like new revenue, new opportunities. Because it's not so much the subscribers that you already have on board. You're trying to find those new pockets of revenue.
New business to business, the banks, the aviation, the automotive, the ports, all these activities that we know will benefit from a much better, stronger connectivity and applications that goes beyond just one operator.
Yeah.
It goes to the whole community.
Yeah.
That makes the difference.
Yep, it really does.
Yeah.
And so in that, do you think telcos have realized, and especially the leaders of the business to business, the enterprise leaders within the telcos, have realized that owning these APIs, right, them being essentially owned by the telco, not owned by Twilio, and owning the relationship with enterprise IT developers is the key?
Yeah, I think working together is the key, and we're going to put all these API in Camara, which is an open platform, and you can pick and choose which one you want to have, integrate into your network, and off you go.
Yeah.
What we are doing from GSMA is to make sure that we have agreements, interfaces between north-south, so from a mobile operator up to the hyperscalers to the app developers, and also east-west between operators.
Yeah.
That's what we're working with.
I think that Open Gateway is a way for telcos, and this is where I get a little bit controversial, you know me, right? So it's a way for telcos to trade out declining and lower margin wholesale revenue, which is where the vendors are really growing, right? They're taking the wholesale bandwidth and then they're building their APIs on top of it and monetizing it. And so, do you think this is a situation where telcos with Open Gateway can now offer APIs that are cheaper for them to produce and then are now higher margin?
Well, I don't know, but I think the wholesale model where we are providing merely connectivity will still be there. But that business model is not yielding the returns that we would like to have.
Exactly.
And now when we have invested in all these 5G equipment, we see the capabilities. Then we have to do something with that. We are sitting on this gigantic horsepower.
Yeah.
And the way for us is to actually, open up and say, come, use us, use what we have developed and what we have invested in. We will, of course, be part of it, and we will ride up the value chain.
Right.
But we will work together with several different hyperscalers, app developers, business-to-business customers to make sure that they get the service that they deserve.
And so is the idea that the telcos will be building each on their own a developer community? Is a developer community going to be owned by
that's a very good question. We don't really know that yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be operator by operator. We're trying to see if we can find communities of sort. We're having an event in Las Vegas with app developers to attract them, for them to understand that we are actually opening
open
up.
For business,
we're open for business, exactly, which we haven't been. To be fair.
I mean, I think they're famously difficult to do business. The telcos are.
Yeah.
Very difficult to, get access to the APIs. It takes a long time to sign a commercial agreement, right? And I think where Twilio's really done well, just speaking about them as a vendor that's done very well, is that they've built this developer community that was so easy to use. Pay by the use these APIs.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, we have been very difficult to do business with. I remember when I was the CEO of Tele2 in Central Europe, even though we all wanted to do business with app developers, we just stumbled each and every time because we were a big company, reasonably big company, and we had this thick of legal requirements. And they came 5 of them and said, just no way.
Right.
And everything just
to
died.
Scale.
Yeah. And we need to change that. We need to be much more nimble, easier to work with, hence the community, hence the idea of having these agreements. So when you develop something for us, it will. Now, this is in the future. It will immediately get access globally.
Yeah.
It's sort of like roaming. Again, think of it as roaming, but from an
I
API
think
perspective.
The key is, and I think in the old days, let's say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, all those APIs were going through the core of the network and your normal tech stack. And now with, I'm going to say it, the public cloud, it gives you some avenues to move some of that traffic off so you're not using the core resources that the subscribers are using. But now you can use the burstiness, the elasticity of a public cloud to take on extra traffic. And I think where telcos get caught up is, I don't know what you're going to do on my network, right? And so I want to throttle you or hold you at bay. But being able to use the public cloud, I think you can kind of leverage those resources.
Certainly that helps. But of course, there is a radio interface, and we need more spectrum. And the more we download stuff over your mobile phone, the more we watch Netflix over your mobile phone, the more capacity we need, the more bandwidth of spectrum we need. Core is, in one sense, easier to fix because it's more aggregated. Cloud is there for us, and internet is there, and we have our own switches, MSCs and BSCs.
But the radio
is a throttling point. So, and of course also more investments, and we don't know how much waste that is being transmitted
Right.
when you download something and watch it. How much ads, how much stuff that you haven't asked for is actually being clogged up in the system at the same time.
But
so it is really a waste management issue as well.
It is. I mean, but the data just continues to grow. I mean, it's insatiable. And telcos have this, like you said, I think they're sitting on a huge gold mine that they we need to crack the nut on the monetization, right? I want telco to win.
Well, yeah, because this is really important. If we continue to push down only 4 or 5 big players are sort of using our network to satisfy your needs and my needs, YouTube and Netflix and others, that means that we will be building networks, investing for the very few, not for the many. So we will then have to start to think about, should we build coverage? Capacity in the edge, or should we just focus where we have the
masses?
And that would be horrible. So we are working with something here in Europe called fair share. Globally we call investment gap, and some areas are not that keen, others are very keen. In Europe are very keen. So fair share is really a way for us to say, you know what, if you're using our network and in a way abusing it,
you're trying to democratize.
You will have to pay for it. It's sort of like if you go to the post office and you sort of put 1 or 2 letters in it and you don't put the stamp on it, that's sort of okay. We can handle that. But if you turn up every day with 5 containers, we will then have to build a new site. We need to do shipping stuff for that to happen, to be able to transmit it. It's the same thing here. If you come with the containers, you need to realize that, you know what, I actually need to sort of contribute some to that investment.
Got it.
Or say 5 containers is now down to 3 envelopes. Because we've taken all the waste away. We have had different compression techniques, which means that we can actually push the same amount of content through and do the same benefit
and
that
be
you
more
and me,
efficient.
but be much, much more efficient. Because this is all around having enough money to do R&D, to invest in networks, current networks, future networks, in security, in all these different activities.
I think this is the question facing the industry. How do we monetize our networks? And if we're going to start talking about 6G, which we already are talking about 6G, right? We need to figure out a way how we're getting the ROI on the billions of dollars that go into building the networks. And I think that's what you're talking about with fair share. And so I think that back to Open Gateway, I mean, this should be the #1 initiative of every enterprise VP at every telco, right? This is such a huge opportunity for them.
It is a massive opportunity.
And so, as we were talking about a couple minutes ago, I think a key is getting these IT enterprise developers, right? The actual coders. And so, how will the telcos attract those developers? I mean, these developers know Twilio APIs, not to pick on them, but they're the big guy in the space. And so, the Open Gateway APIs are incompatible with the Twilio APIs. And so, is the idea to get them to switch off of Twilio and using Open Gateway? Is the vision that developers will begin to rewrite their apps and use the Open Gateway APIs? Is that the idea that?
Well, let's see. I mean, we are testing a whole bunch of different avenues here, and I think we're plowing in uncharted territory, if you would like. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a combination of both. Or maybe we'll find new developers that are completely hooked to the Open Gateway initiative. Or there will be a combination. I don't know yet. It's still very, very early days. We launched this, as you rightly said, in February of this year. And now what, 5-6 months later, we're here. So give us maybe another year or so. Then I'm sure we would have more understanding of what is the best way forward.
Yeah, no, that's super key. And so MWC 24 is in, I'm sure you're already thinking about it, in Barcelona, is coming up in February. And I'm sure you're putting together the themes. The themes have got to include AI or generative AI. And so what are you guys thinking about that? I mean, I can give you a couple taglines. I mean, I would suggest a tagline with AI in there, like brainstorm or trailblaze, right? Or AIM. I don't know. Are you guys already talking?
AIM is good. I like that.
AIM is AI capitalized. A little marketing for you. So you guys starting to think about AI and?
Well, absolutely, and the themes that will come up in 24 is around those things, more 5G and maybe 5G evolution, Open Gateway guaranteed,
Big.
A lot of Open Gateway.
Right, we could take a whole hall and do a hackathon.
We're going to do that in Las Vegas now, because we have Las Vegas in
October.
is it
Or
October?
September?
I think it is, and then you have Kigali in October.
Yeah,
in
in Africa.
So they're slightly different, but then Barcelona comes quickly.
Yeah.
And I actually think that Barcelona will be AI, Open Gateway, fair share, but more applications around
For
5G
sure.
because 5G
Yes.
is different
Yeah.
than what 4G, 3G, 2G, and 1G was.
Yeah.
It is more business to business.
Correct.
Hence, it takes longer time to fully realize
Yeah.
the capabilities of it. So I think we
Right.
should stay in the 5G mindset.
Correct.
And then look at the applications that we can do.
Yeah. Well, I think this represents the first time that networks could be technically leveraged and monetized through technical pathways.
Exactly.
Right?
That's a good way
Up
of
way
putting
to
it.
this point, up until now, it's been marketing bundles,
Yeah.
plans
Yeah.
and tariffs
Exactly.
and things like that. But now an API represents technically building apps that you don't even know what the use is going to be.
Exactly.
And do you need to know? You don't. You're like, you're going to back to pay for what you eat, right? You're like, you use a lot of my APIs, you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
You're testing a little mobile app that's not going to take off. I don't want to go through all the effort of like signing a big commercial agreement if you're just playing. And neither do these little developers and startups. But if you're going to use a lot, I want you to pay for it.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Right?
That's it.
So I was at Wimbledon,
Oh.
right? And I managed to get a Wimbledon ball.
Oh.
And I would like, it's from this year, Wimbledon 2023.
Wow.
It's my gift to you.
Oh,
it's a used ball.
that is
It's a used ball, but it's
a used,
but it's a Wimbledon ball.
And who has played with anyone famous? Stefan
yes.
Edberg?
So yes, I was in London. I
yeah,
won't
that's
bounce as well. It's like it's about the
Nice.
bounce of a grass court. No, I in COVID I bid on a charity package at Andy Roddick's foundation. He focused on underprivileged children that kind of slide in the summer from their education.
Yeah.
So he does educational camps, and it's really great. I was on the leadership council there for a couple of years, and so I bid on this package, but it was during COVID, and Wimbledon was canceled in 20. And maybe even 21, and then 22 it was a little bit light. So this year I came, and so with it I got a hit at Queen's Club, which has the best grass, he says, of any grass court in the world. Due respect to Wimbledon, but it was really amazing. But we walked on court, and I was hitting with Andy, and he's so gracious and nice. And on the court next to us is Stefan Edberg, right, who's won 6 Grand Slams. I think he's won everything twice except for the French. He lost to Michael Chang in '89 in the finals. And so Andy and I, he was there hitting with someone for charity. Andy and I took on his charity partner in a tiebreaker. And I can say, legitimately,
Did you win?
I beat Stefan Edberg. So
how good isn't that?
It was amazing. So, Mats, it's always great to see you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on the podcast and talking to us about
Super.
Open Gateway.
I appreciate
and
it.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to MWC 24.
And thank you for the
Yeah,
transport.
you're welcome. Awesome.
Thank you.